What's up, everybody? I'm Avataj, and welcome to another episode of the HLTB podcast. We're well on our way to the big 50, but today it's number 48, and we've been playing some games. We've been finishing some games. We haven't retired any games again this time. That's another day of no retirees today.
I think that's 4 weeks now.
And for our topic today, we're going to be discussing kind of a flow-on from last week, but we're talking about just video game preservation just in itself, and might get spicy, so strap in. But we'll get to that after we've talked about what we've been playing, because we haven't been going too crazy, but we've been playing a few things. And Paula, I noticed you've got a few new things as well as some old things. So,
Yeah.
Oh, how silly of me to forget! I am joined by my regular co-host Paula.
Hey there, took you a while, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to preface this by saying I'm very tired, and that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. So,
It's okay.
why don't you kick us off, Paula, and tell us about what you have beaten since last we spoke?
Well, so I finished Zodiacats, and I think that's the last game from Devcats that I haven't finished,
Cool.
or like the last of the currently like available games, I think. So this is more of a not traditional puzzle game. That kind of puzzle game where you exchange, like you select two pieces and you exchange them. Like you
Cool,
have
yeah.
like that grid and you exchange the pieces. And you have to like swap them until you form like the actual picture. No more to say other than I'm so glad this game has like a dark mode, because otherwise my eyes would have fried. And also like the pictures were very, very cute, because they were like all the zodiac signs from like the monthly horoscope. Not the Chinese one, like the monthly one. And there were like cats in those shapes, pretty much. Not much to say other than it was cute, and it had like two modes for each puzzle. Like the normal mode, that was the intended difficulty, and the hard mode, which is pretty much like the puzzle gets split up into tinier pieces. I pretty much like completed each puzzle twice, because I like at that point I was like 2 trophies away from glory, so might as well just get all of those. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've completed. I see you've completed one that has been on the works for a while now.
Yes, I have officially finished Ship Graveyard Simulator, which I don't really have anything too crazy to add to what I've said previously. But I guess when I say finished, for anyone who maybe has played the game or whatever, I've basically done every single ship that there is to wreck, basically, like pull apart and, break down. And I consider that to be all of it, because there's not really anything else to do. So, anything else I did now would be just repeating myself. But what it did do is kind of get me a little bit interested in Ship Graveyard Simulator 2, because while this one was quite, I don't want to say boring, but straightforward and simplistic, and it got kind of repetitive towards the end very quickly, because there's not much to it. Basically, you just go onto a ship and figure out which tool you need to break whatever's in front of you, and then move on to the next thing, figure out whatever tool you need to break that, and so on and so forth. And it's very, there's not a lot of depth to it, put it that way. Whereas having played the demo for the second one, I know it does get a little bit more in depth, because you kind of take things apart a little bit more intricately, and there are things inside other things that you have to think about, and it's a bit more, it feels like anyway, a bit more kind of taking apart the entire ship rather than just breaking a whole bunch of stuff that's sitting on a ship, which is what this one was. So yeah, because the actual structure of the ship, like the hull and walls and things, you didn't actually take apart. You just kind of went into rooms and broke all the boxes in that room or something, and that was that. So that's what I mean. It was okay, but it wasn't great. And if I wasn't such a sucker for just getting a task done, I probably wouldn't have finished it. But I do enjoy menial tasks and just accomplishing something. So this
Ain't that a
scratched
mood?
the itch. Oh yeah. Yeah. Not challenging, not like incredibly overwhelming or anything, or I would say not even incredibly satisfying, because you just kind of do it and then you're done. But yeah, kind of. I'm going to maybe check out that demo again of the second one. And now that I understand how this game works, the demo might, tell me more than it did the first time I played it. So yeah, that's that one. Ship Graveyard Simulator. All done. Finished. No more. But
Beautiful.
what you been playing over there?
Well, so I've been simulation hell at this point, but anyway. Oh my god, I have some stories here to tell. I was still playing Timberborn. Let's remember this game is on early access, and I don't
Yep.
remember like what was the criteria like people used to say like, "Hey, I beat this game." I think last time I played, it was something along the lines of, "Okay, yeah, I finished building like all the very big buildings that were like kind of like wonders, I think."
Okay.
And survive like a couple of droughts after that. But since we also have bad tides now, and we have a lot more stuff to do here, I'm not quite sure what's the end goal here. Like, well, besides just trying to survive, which, by the way, I haven't been doing like a great job here. Like, holy crap! So, I think when we left off, I already have like uh, my first experience with bad tides.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the thing is that I already have like the one contaminated beaver that was just refusing to do work at that time, and it was horrible. Uh, so I had a flood for some reason. I think it was because at that point in time I was working like on dams and I like not levers but the well I was pretty much like doing some terraforming by deviating the influx of water, but also like trying to accumulate a little bit of water in case like there was like another drought. And then we had a bad tide, and the water became contaminated and undrinkable, which is nice. But also, I
Hooray.
had a flood on like a huge chunk. Like District 3 at that point was just starting like to be a thing, and it got flooded. So the buildings, most of the buildings, were useless at that point. But then the bad tide came and the beavers became all like contaminated, and that wasn't pretty. So not only that, but I don't know what happened. I have like the suspicion like when there's a bad tide, there's a chance that the water level will go up, or at the very least like there's gonna be like a I guess more liters per second like coming down the waterfall or something, because out
Mm.
of nowhere like half of District 1 flooded like from the water that was already coming from District 3, which I'm not sure what happened there, but anyway, uh which ended up with, I think it was like close to a third of the adult beaver population on District 1 contaminated. At that point in time, I only had like antidotes for like the beavers that were feeling like queasy, but I had no way to cure contaminated beavers. And
Mm.
also, I was having food problems because, well, contaminated beavers don't work, but they still eat and drink water. So, since District 3 was already inhabitable because reasons, flooding reasons, I pretty much like took all the healthy beavers from there and distributed them in the other two districts and exile all the contaminated beavers to District 3 and let them die. Which I know it sounds cruel, but first of all, there's no way to put down a unit here, like in games like Age of Empires or whatnot.
Yeah.
So that there wasn't like a humane way to do it, and also like if those beavers kept like being a hassle in the colony, the other beavers wouldn't be able to survive. So I had to do the thing, and before the issues spread even further, just exile the 35 or so beavers that were contaminated. So
Damn.
yeah,
That's cool.
managed to survive the bad tide after that. And not long after that, we have a drought, a very long drought, like a 6-day drought, and somehow survive. And then another bad tide. But this time I managed to survive it in a way that it didn't have any contaminated beavers, so there weren't any casualties this time around, which was nice. Um, so slowly but surely, I started to feel like a dam, uh, yeah, a dam, like around the part where I was having like flooding issues. So I had like the river was a little bit taller at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So or like deeper, I guess. But anyway, like the border of the river like was a little bit taller. So after painstakingly bringing logs from all over my little beaver, not even paradise at this point. It was like a fucking hellhole. I managed to block the flow of water. Uh, and then I realized there was like some trash or like the debris like blocking the flow of water at the bottom of the river, and that was the reason why I was having so much trouble. So I also uh, fixed that, and now I have no flooding problems. Like, and that was beautiful. But it
Cool.
took a while, and in like on my way to getting there, like I had so many like food shortages. I had to like recover slowly but surely, but I managed to recover from that. But at one point, we had such a bad uh, drought directly after a bad tide. At that point, the drought and the bad tides were like lasting for like 8 days.
Wow.
That most of my beaver population died. Like at some point, District 3, once it was no longer flooded and no longer contaminated, was like the safe heaven for a while because I have like a field that was like just about ready to harvest. So I had to very much uh up the I guess barrier of export because you can export and import um materials, food, water, and all that just like
Yeah.
uh from one district to another. And at one point, everyone outside of District 3 was very hungry, and some even like passing away from hunger. So it was horrible. But I managed to survive with a measly 20 to 30 beavers across all districts. But now
Nice.
I'm on my way to slowly but surely rebuilding the kingdom, and that's more or less like where I solved like my playing session for the week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was intense. Like so many times where I thought we wouldn't make it, and somehow we managed to pull through. It was quite epic and quite stressing. So for a while, it was like, okay, I rather not have like I rather not play like a do or die game for like a couple of days just to recover from the stress of not knowing if my viewers would live to see another day. Like you laugh, but holy crap! Like you grow to care about your colony.
Yeah.
And also it was like a very good colony. Like at that point, I had already like managed to get medal. Like I before the before the fall, before the apocalypse, pretty much. I had like an industrial district. Well, that went to shit, and now I have to slowly but surely like go back into building everything. Right now, food and water is my only focus. So, well, and wood, because without wood you can't build shit. So yeah, I also need to find a way like to. Oh, there among these new things that we have here in Timberborn, you can now like treat planks with sap.
Oh,
Like
okay.
usually, like before, I don't know which update it was, but when I first like did a run of Timberborn, you were just able like to grow the trees and cut it down. But now, if you leave the trees be, you can get like a secondary resources. Like you can get like maple. I think it was like maple syrup or something like that. Resin. You could get chestnuts, and that's another source of food.
Hmm.
Stuff like that in general. So I need to first of all like recover and then get a beaver to harvest resin from a specific kind of tree, and then use that to treat the planks, and then I can finally build like the bigger water pump, so I can use less beavers to pump water out of the river, and get like a lot more water, and I can like have more beavers do other things that way. It has been a project since the start, because I didn't know like what was needed, so I just put it to build, and it was like, oh, I don't have like half these materials, and like what was that? And I had to investigate, and it was like a new resource. So yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep playing. Just that now I need to relax a little bit. So then I decided to pick up again Let's Go.
Mm.
And I'm still like playing at the time. My boyfriend is not playing Elden Ring because holy crap, he went into an Elden Ring Elden Ring craze. Um, and he's like new game plus plus or something like that. Like he's like on his fifth new game plus, and that's a thing.
Yeah, crazy.
Uh, and since Let's Go is not part of like it is not like available to play when the person who owns it is playing another game because of the family sharing thing.
Mm.
It was like okay, I guess. So yeah, now I have to play like very early in the morning before he wakes up. But anyway, so uh, among the many things that happen, I've been trying to get like all the four. Um, well, at first it was like, okay, let's just go with this particular goal, because the first goal that I got was kind of like a thing you just did without meaning to.
Hmm.
So it was like, okay, that doesn't count. So I'm trying to get a second thing. So yeah, first of all, managing the schedules, it's a particular kind of hell that if you want things to go a very particular way, I would advise against it, because since a lot of the kids that get into the murder funny school like have like lower aspirations than the ones that enter recently, and I've been training my teachers to be like better teachers. a lot of them like just have enough knowledge and points to go their merry way, like have their education, like into like have their stay here. So at that point, I start like having them do other things, like just besides studying, like the main things they're doing. So because
Hmm.
of that, and because I can't just I just can't seem to do it like automatically, and I have to stick my nose into everyone's business. I take like upwards of 30 to 45 minutes each time a new semester starts to just make sure everything is in order. And that's without counting like the times that I have to either build new classrooms or like have another a new kind of room, like the projector room or like the recording room and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, managing a school is kind of hard, not gonna lie. Um, so I also have to build another physics lab and all that jazz. So it turns out in the well that is just there at the start of the game, there's a spirit. I don't know why the spirit took so long to show up, but she showed up. And she was like, "Hey, I think you may have dropped something into the well or something." And she offers you one of two students, one that is like an arts prodigy, and the other one is a sports prodigy or something like that. If you try to choose one, which I did, she calls you a fucking liar and disappears. I think you get the student. I didn't quite realize is like pay attention to that, but yeah. And there's an
Interesting.
achievement behind that. So what the hell? Uh, that was weird. So yeah,
Yeah.
I decided like to start like paying more attention to the clubs that I have in school because uh one of the win conditions is to have like a no, pretty much have the best club in the state, like
Right.
either a basketball club or a pop music club. Get to first place in competition in the state. How do you do that? You have to have them train and earn points and all that jazz. But you for that you have to give them like proper equipment.
Hmm.
Uh, so right now, for some strange reason, the club rooms are like the biggest rooms in all the school, and I had to build like a separate facility just to have those. A lot of people are very keen into entering one of said clubs, so yeah, that was fun.
Hmm.
And of course, I still have like those stupid frogs incidents. And I have like a new record where we got to the first break after the beginning of the semester and we had a frog incident because why not? From time to
Of
time, like
course.
they're becoming like less uh, frequent or like
Yeah.
were becoming less frequent, but I don't know what happened that like the frog violence or the frog throwing crimes in school have gone up a little bit. And it's kind of funny because I didn't realize, and I saw the frog incident happening like in real time. And it's like a student like brought a frog to another student, and the frog started like jumping around the student, and the student was like running away from the frog until they couldn't like run away any longer, and the frog got stuck on their face.
Nice.
So yeah, that's how the frog incidents happen.
Mm.
So yeah, and because I've been doing like more competitions and stuff, a lot of the students that get like that graduate, they get like guaranteed admin because of the clubs in like the things they want, especially if they were like a part of the team when they won a competition.
Hmm.
I've also been investing on various communities to have students with higher aspirations. So at the very least, like So the better the aspiration for the student, the more like contribution points and money they give you, like if they pass their exams and stuff like that. Like this, and if they get into their unit of choice, I think they also give you something else.
Hmm.
Um. So yeah, I've been investing in that because the other option to invest in a community is to raise like the I guess like the money each family has. I don't know how that works, but anyway, and that means that's more money for school because first of all, you get to charge more for tuition, but also but also you get to sell more stuff at school because since they have more money, they give their kids more money and they buy more stuff at school. So it's kind of like a win-win. But to get them like from uh, normal to rich, you have to invest quite a lot. So I haven't done that. At the very least, all the students like have a normal income right now, which is nice. Um, I'm also building a wonder that is the art gallery, and that is like an advanced wonder, I think.
Cool.
That means it is like its all own building, and it took a huge chunk of the terrain. So I had to like kind of like buy another piece of terrain just to be able to build that shit. So yeah,
Damn.
it's been a while since I played, but I played a lot. Right now my basketball team or my basketball club is it has the third place at state level. The pop music club is get is I think they got to first on city level or second on city level. No, they got to city level first.
Cool.
Uh, and also I got like the um academic victory too because I finally got like the 10 students with a 5-star aspiration to graduate. It was beautiful. But then I realized I was so close to getting like the two other victories. So I was like, well, might as well get all of them at this point. Like, let's do this. So yeah, that's the only reason this game isn't finished yet because I got greedy.
Yeah.
But also like and I started like to try to get students like from the furthest districts, and one of them, oh, I mean, one of the communities is like on a mountain, so the students, and it is a wealthy district, so the students go in helicopter to school, and you have to build a helipad to be able
Oh,
to recruit
jeez.
students from there. They have 5-star aspirations, and one of the fuckers failed. Like, I had 3 students. I think one of them started skipping classes. And I spent a lot of items to try to raise their one stat that was failing, like, as fast as possible. And the fucker failed. So they don't want to send students from to my school anymore because the fucker decides to skip classes. So yeah, and that is the end for now of my Let's Go adventure. It's been a long trip, but I think we're getting to the end soon. I played over 70 hours of this. Holy crap!
Damn. I'm glad the
Uh
frogs have stuck around.
yeah, the perks are always there. Oh, and there's also like, oh yeah, and there was a new record after the new record of the frog throwing. So I literally like just finished the what's the name, like the speech at the beginning of the semester, and there was a frog incident. Like, dude, well, the very least I waited like 10 minutes to do it, but fuck you all.
Nice.
Kids are under frogs these days, but anyway. So yeah, the last game that I've been playing, and this is a game that I got wind of and bought quite recently, as in
Mhm.
like 2 days ago, is Beltmatic. So a YouTuber that I watch that is a real civil engineer
Yep.
plays Timberborn, so I watch his videos from time to time, and my boyfriend does too. So he came one day and showed me Beltmatic, which is pretty much like a very, very simplistic, or like simplistic looking, sorry,
Mm.
um, kind of like automation factory kind of deal.
Right.
But instead of building like or like making actual products and stuff, you pretty much have to harvest numbers that are placed like at a random on the map. So imagine you have like a mine where you get just number ones or like just number twos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the literal number two.
Yep.
Uh, and you have to carry those or like make those numbers get into like the center of the map where you deliver those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So in each level, you are asked to give a certain quantity or to deliver a certain quantity of a specific number. So, for example, 110s to say something.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to mine the numbers around you, but there aren't any number tens. So what you have to do is do operations over those numbers, the ones you have, and then deliver the results uh, to the deliver point,
Mm.
which it's strangely and stupidly addictive. Like I ended up playing like 3 hours like yesterday, and a couple of hours today, like just before recording. And it was like, okay, 50 more minutes, 5 more minutes, and then it was like, fuck, it's recording time. Yeah, but the game is it has a very simple premise, a very simple UI, but holy crap, it is addictive as fuck.
It looks a lot like another game called Shapes.io, where this is a very similar thing, but instead of numbers, it's just shapes. So, like squares and circles and things.
Yeah, I think I played that one, but I didn't find it like as enjoyable. Maybe I'm
Okay.
confusing with another game.
Right.
Yeah, it is very addictive, and they give you like the operations like one by one. So first of all, you only have like the conveyor belt, and then they give you like addition, multiplication. Later down the road, they give you like subtraction and division.
Mm-hmm.
And also they give you bridges, so you can have like conveyor belts going over one another without necessarily having to like mix them up. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I just realized this morning, after 5 or so hours of playing, some of those hours were starting to be a little slow. That I could upgrade shit.
Ah, nice.
The way you have to upgrade the stuff is that, well, there's a little menu that has like all the upgrades. The thing you have to do is to deliver a certain amount of certain numbers that aren't necessarily the numbers you have to deliver for the main story.
Right.
Uh, so I started doing that, and the difference is night and day. So usually you're only able to have like at the start of the game you can only have like one conveyor belt going from like exiting from the mine or like the extractors
Mm-hmm.
at full capacity. Now I have three, and that makes life so much easier because if I need a number three, I don't have to take all the threes like from three different sources. I can just have the one source, and that's you wonder like how different does it make the thing, and it is a game changer, believe me. And also the
Yeah.
conveyor belt now is faster, the addition now works faster, the multiplication now works faster, and I'm on my way to like upgrading as fast like as much as possible right now. because I know that we have like exponentials or something like that. So at the very
Right.
least, I want to get to a point where bigger numbers are not as much of a hassle, or like at the very least, like I don't have to have a stupid amount of conveyor belts and operators just to have the one number. So at the very least, yeah.
Yeah. Looks cool.
Yeah, and it was very cheap too. Like it cost me like, well, technically $3 because I was selling trading cards on the Steam
Mhm.
market, and I got like a couple of dollars from that.
Nice.
So yeah, very cool game. You wouldn't think is as addictive as it is, but it is. And now
Mm.
I'll shut up and let you talk about the things you've been playing.
Just on that Beltmatic, it looks like it reminded me of Shapes.io because it looks like that kind of simplified version of Factorio,
Yeah,
which is very cool, I think, because that kind of gameplay is just very addictive and satisfying.
yeah. I kind of been wanting to play Factorio, but I've been waiting on the sale.
Mm.
But I still had that itch. And then I saw this game and I was like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna play this.
Yeah, looks good. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out one day.
Please do it.
I have not been playing heaps, but a couple of new things. After finishing WRC 6 last week, I started WRC 7 on PlayStation 5, and it's not a huge jump of difference between 6 and 7, but the main thing that is kind of makes me laugh a bit is that it very much has a similar kind of presentation style to WRC 6. Like, it looks pretty much the same, maybe a little bit better graphics this time around, but it's negligible. It still looks good though. But where WRC 6, I found driving the cars, like the physics and the handling and everything, there was like heaps and heaps of understeer, and I felt like it was really, felt a bit slow in parts and really hard to kind of just get around corners and make yourself turn quick enough. You had to kind of, I had to use like a combination of handbrake and braking and everything just to kind of whip around the corner a bit quicker. In WRC 7, it's like they just got the slider for oversteer and understeer and just took it completely to the other end. And now it's very oversteery, so you turn way too quickly and you end up doing the whole fishtail thing, which is never fun. Like, you go around a corner, but you go too fast, so then you overcompensate, and then you overcompensate, and back and forth, just trying to get yourself to go straight again, which can be a bit of a pain. But having said that, it's more just getting used to how this particular game does the physics, so that you can just kind of play it that way. And that seems to be the case with a lot of racing games. You just kind of, a lot of them try to be realistic, but they're not. And you just kind of have to get used to however the physics are set up for that particular game and just kind of go with that. Because this one is wacky. Like, so having someone who's driven a car often and for many years, not a race car, mind you, but just a regular car. One thing that a lot of racing games do that's funny anyway is the cars never seem as heavy as they are in real life, where, if you go over a jump or something in real life, cars come down real quick. Like, they are very, very heavy.
Yeah.
And they weigh like tons of metal. And in video games, because it's more fun and everything, and this way I'm not necessarily criticizing it, but if you go over a jump, you start flying basically. And
My planet needs me.
Yeah, kind of. And it's kind of the same in this game, except when it's more in annoying ways. Like, you'll be going around a corner and you'll be doing okay, but then one tire will like clip the edge of the embankment, so your whole car will just suddenly go upright in a weird non-physics conforming way, and you'll just kind of roll a few times and somehow magically will end up back on your tires and keep going.
Physics, what's fun? Is it tasty?
Yeah. So it's kind of like the physics works well until you actually hit something and it doesn't. And then it just doesn't work well at all. And it just goes completely weird. But Not as bad as other things like other games I've played. Like, this is no farming simulator or anything when it comes to physics. So they're pretty good. But yeah, like I say, your cars feel like, and I know race cars have different properties and all this kind of thing, but it feels like your car has but virtually no weight. But then you also have to compensate for drifting too much and the oversteer and all that kind of thing. So, I think these earlier WRC games, especially compared to 9, which I have originally played, got me on this journey, they hadn't quite nailed the whole driving thing quite yet. And that's cool because they're still enjoyable. I've still ripped through this one. I've spent quite a few hours on it already, actually, and I'm at least halfway through the career mode because it's set up. The setup is pretty much exactly the same as WRC 6, where you go through 3 different seasons of career from junior WRC to WRC 2 to then straight up WRC. And once you've done all that, you've kind of done all the races and you've done all the career mode, and that's that. And I've almost finished with WRC 2, and then I'll have all of the WRC season to go through. So yeah, pretty much halfway done with that. But it's good fun. It's a little bit different again. Don't really have much else to add. Because yeah, it's kind of very, very similar to WRC 6, just with a few key differences. But yeah, if anyone's into rally games, they're still good rally games. They're showing their age now, these ones in particular. But overall, the series is still, pretty decent. I've also been playing a bit more Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. And it's gotten, I don't know if I'd say more interesting, but it's definitely answering some questions along the way, where I think last time we spoke, where I was at, they were trying to figure out, there was like the same person appeared to have gotten murdered in 2 different locations at the same time.
Yeah.
But we were looking at one particular location and it seemed like, yes, someone had definitely kind of faked it. And there was like security camera footage of the person, like the victim, before they got killed, but you never saw their face. And there was a few key things here and there where you're like, okay, I'm guessing this is someone else, an imposter of some sort, because, it's too good to be true. And sure enough, you interrogate a few people and you find out, yes, no, it was this person in particular. So that was kind of cool to resolve that a bit because it was another character. I don't want to necessarily spoil it too much because of the nature of the whole game. It's not really one I want to spoil too much. But again, if anyone's playing along, we did go back to find out more about the old case that had happened, which is tying a lot of the same investigators and everyone together, where I found out more about that case now, and that was like a serial killer case who our main defendant, who's like the head prosecutor's office lady, she's our main person that we're trying to defend. But it turns out in this previous case, she's now admitted that she falsified some evidence to make sure that they to make sure that they arrested the dude who was responsible for all the killings, and he was actually witnessed doing a killing back in his day, but they didn't know. They kind of covered up a little to protect some identities and things, and they falsified some evidence to like just make sure that he got convicted. So that's all bad, obviously, because blah blah blah. And that's kind of half the reason why this imposter kind of came along this time, because they were trying to get rid of some old evidence before it got surfaced again, or something to that effect. Or maybe there was that false evidence that they were, I can't remember exactly what they were doing. But yeah, they were trying to cover up some shit from that investigation. And that's why certain things happened. So at this point, I'm still trying to figure out what actually happened with the current case. But in doing so, we're figuring out more about what happened in the previous case to then, figure out who the suspects of this case are, basically, because they're all the same people who are involved. So,
Yeah.
it is all revealing itself slowly over time, but I'm still nowhere closer to finding a resolution. It's funny because it's, like I've said before with Phoenix Wright, there's the courtroom stuff, then there's all the investigation stuff, and I've basically gotten through a bunch of courtroom stuff, and I'm back to doing some more investigations, which is where I'm basically going around talking to people about this old school case where they, fucked up basically. And so that is kind of taking a while at the moment.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, unfortunately, in that kind of section, there's a lot of times where we as the gamer know more than the characters on screen. So we're just kind of waiting for them to catch up, which, has never been my favorite kind of thing. Like, I prefer to find out, to be kind of in the dark until the characters find out as well. When I know too much and they don't, it's kind of a bit like you start going, yeah, come on, guys, let's get up to speed. We all know what's going on. Let's get the penny dropped. So yeah, I feel like there's not much left to the case, though. I know I keep saying that, like, I've said that a lot, where I'm like, I think I'm close to the end or something, or I feel like I'll finish it off next time I play or whatever. But I honestly do feel like there can't be much left, because it is all kind of falling into place. It's just those final key points.
This is the precise moment where the game goes like, watch me, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, I don't want to, I've played enough to know that could be completely wrong. But it does seem likely at the moment. But yeah, I'm still a little bit away from basically having any new revelations to kind of go on or anything like that. It's just still working through the case and doing the job. So yeah. And the courtroom stuff is still fun. And there's been some funny bits as well, where between ourselves, Phoenix Wright, and Edgeworth, the prosecution, so our opponent basically, there's been a couple of times where we've just kind of chained objections one after the other. So like Phoenix Wright is like, objection, and then he says something, and then Edgeworth is like, objection, and then Phoenix Wright says, objection, and they just keep going and going. And that's kind of funny, because
yeah,
it just goes a bit over the top, and I like that. I like when it leans into being a bit silly and doesn't take itself too seriously.
That is Phoenix Wright for you.
Yeah. So there's lots of good times like that, to balance out the kind of waiting for everyone else to catch up kind of times. So, so that's still good. And the judge still cracks me up, because he's very much, just a dumbass. He's there to kind of go, huh? What's this new thing? Tell me all about it. And then you do that, and he's like, oh. And then someone else says something new, and he's like, huh? I guess that's the new thing now. Tell me all about that. And so you do, and yeah. It's good times. It's good fun. And yeah, those courtroom scenes are still, the reason to play, really, for me. So I look forward to the next one. But this week as well, I've spent a lot of time playing a new game that I picked up called Ete, I want to say. It's ETE with accents on the both E's. And anyone who remembers way back when I played the demo for this during a Next Fest and loved it, and I've just been waiting for it to come out. And guess what? It came out. So
nice.
I've been playing a whole bunch of it. So the basics of the game is you are an artist who has recently moved to, I think, Montreal in Canada, hence the French-Canadian kind of language accents and stuff on the name. And you've basically taken an apartment in a building, like a little unit kind of thing. And in order to make money and pay your way and also just kind of play the game, you explore the whole area that you're in, and you paint pictures, and you can sell paintings at a cafe for money, or you meet a lot of people around the town and everything who commission you to do stuff, and random things too, like even just weird little stuff. Like there are these two kids who are playing hockey, and they ask you, can you make like a poster for their hockey teams? Because one of them is like the Raptors and the other one is, I don't know, something else. But so you basically paint them on a canvas and they go, oh, cool. And they hang it up next to where they're playing hockey and stuff like that. And there's like people who run shops and things who you do paintings for, or there's a lady who is like a rich, snooty lady who wants to invest in an artist, and she ends up investing in you. And you, through her, you kind of, which I'm still doing, you get an old building and you start doing it up like a studio where you can have exhibitions and this kind of thing and sell your paintings. And that's kind of the thing. One thing I'm really pleased with was when I played the demo, they give you access to I think, about 3 different areas. There's a market kind of area where there's lots of shops and stalls and things. There's your house, and then there's also an alleyway out the back of your house, which is the backs of lots of other houses. But there's kids playing, and there's like people having barbecues or parties and stuff, and lots to explore. And when I played the demo, I remember thinking, oh, I hope they have way more areas to explore. And I'm pleased to say that they do. It's not shitloads, but where there were 3 in the demo, I think there's now about 6 or 7 in the main game. And some of the ones that weren't in the demo are like really, really big areas. Like there's an entire kind of park area where it's a huge parklands kind of thing. And there's playgrounds for kids, and there's a little river with ponds and fish and stuff. There's heaps of trees and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, there's like a little hiking trail up the back through some rocky kind of outcrops and stuff. And there's like a water park in there as well. There's a big fuck off statue where you can explore areas around there. There's like a market garden kind of thing there as well. So yeah, it's quite a big area. There's also a couple of other areas as well, which are equally as large and complex, so that there's lots and lots of places to explore. And the reason that's important is because the kind of conceit of the gameplay, while you're doing all this painting and everything, in order to have things to paint, you need to basically explore the world. And as you do, you kind of, it's from a first person perspective, but with your vision, you kind of paint areas of the world and different items in the world. And as you quote unquote paint them, they become available for you to then use in your paintings. So for instance, out front of your apartment, there's like a little garden. So there's some flower beds and things that you can get flowers from, and there are some trees that you get different types of trees from. But there's also other stuff like fences and bike racks and rubbish bins and, basically everything in the world that when you first encounter it, it's all colorless. It's just a white kind of color with kind of like a cartoony black outline. And as you color it in, it reveals the color that it is, but it also then adds that to your repertoire or to your inspiration, I guess, of what you've seen around you that you can use to then go and paint pictures. And so a lot of your time is essentially exploring the world and finding different items to inspire you, I guess, to be able to paint that for commissions and that sort of thing. So like to go back to the 2 kids who are playing hockey, like one of them, their team is the Raptors. So to be able to paint a dinosaur on the painting that you're doing for them, you need to find an actual dinosaur or a toy or, some representation of a dinosaur in order to then be able to use that on your canvas. So you can't just go off and paint a dinosaur without having actually found one in the world kind of thing. And that's kind of cool because it's a bit contrived.
Too.
Yeah. Like the theory behind it is that you're exploring your world and getting inspired for your paintings is the kind of story, but reason behind it. So without exploring and looking at things and kind of taking note of them and all that kind of thing, you can't, you're not going to be inspired enough to actually paint them. So it's kind of cool because it lets you do it with pretty much everything, like even some mundane stuff, like I say, like rubbish bins or, street lights or just every random object in the environment can be used as one of these things. So you end up basically building up a huge portfolio of items that you have available to you to paint, because the way the paintings work is you don't actually paint anything. It's more like a collage kind of system where you get all the things that you've seen and you've been inspired by and all that kind of thing, and you can kind of just place them on the canvas. So, and they're all kind of 3D models that you can move and manipulate, and they look like they're kind of like a watercolor painting through their textures and all that kind of thing, but they are just basically a 3D model that you then position on the canvas however you want, and you can like zoom it in and out. If it's something that moves, you can kind of animate it as well, so that if it's, say, a bird, you can tell it to animate so it'll move through its motions and then look the way you want it to look. And you can kind of move it on a 3D plane, so you can make it turn around or up, down, left, right, all around kind of thing. And place it on your canvas and then place other things on as well. And yeah, that's how you make a painting. It's more of like a collage thing as opposed to actually painting a picture. But that's cool because it kind of works and it makes it quick and kind of easy. And, you know, you don't get bogged down doing, you know, trying to make MS Paint quality stuff because, you know, that's not really the point of the game. And yeah, it's a good time. It's a very relaxing, kind of very exploratory and chill, casual kind of game where I spent most of my time just exploring every single location and unlocking everything that I could, which I've now done. Because once you've unlocked 100% of each area, you then get what's called infinite paint, and you can go around and just basically paint the whole thing. Because
Nice.
initially, when you're looking for objects and stuff, you've got a limit to how much you can paint at a time, and you can only paint objects. You can't paint like surfaces and things. So if you've got like a
Yeah.
building that's like got a brick wall, you can't paint the actual brick wall, but you can paint the objects like the windows, or maybe there's some plants growing up the side or something. You can paint that, but the actual wall itself will remain blank because it's a surface, it's not an object. But once you've got enough objects, you can then go around and basically there's a mechanic where you can kind of like right click and it'll like drop a bomb of paint, essentially like a little grenade, and just kind of paint an area instead of a single object. So you can basically go around and finish everything off by painting all the surfaces as well as any objects that you might have missed. And yeah, there's no limit to how much you can do that. And that's kind of where I'm up to. And there is a story as well. Like I say, there's heaps of people to encounter and you can do jobs for them because there's also like a time of day system where it moves from morning to midday to afternoon to evening. And then you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and you do the same thing all over again. So there are different people who are found at different times at different locations. So when you do, when you're trying to find, you know, quote unquote quests to do, you kind of have to explore at different times and at different locations. So you can find all the people who want you to do stuff. And then once you've done it, you also then need to find them again at the right time and location rather than just the location. So, you know, that kind of adds another layer to it as well because there's that time element. But yeah, I'm at the point now where I've done enough that I've got enough money that I can progress because I'm trying to fix up this studio that I've been given to use by, you know, I'm hiring someone else to kind of clean up this building and restore it so that it's not falling apart and all this kind of stuff because it's an old warehouse. And I'm also trying to paint more paintings to then put on exhibitions and things so that people will buy them and make more money and all that kind of thing. But I've done all my exploration and I've got like pretty much a full repertoire of objects and things that I can use to paint with, other than the ones that are blocked by quests, because there are some way you have to like do something for someone and that'll unlock different, more objects for you to use and that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot to do,
That's
but
a lot.
it's good. I mean, you even paint the sky so that you can like, you know, use clouds and things in your paintings. So wherever you are, you're painting all the objects around you as well, but you can also just paint the straight up sky that's above you. So yeah, but it's good. There's a lot of varied locations, like I say, and there's lots and lots to do. So I'm really pleased with it. I think the demo was a good representation of what to expect because it's basically exactly that, just more. And yeah, it's a very chill kind of It's just a very me game. Like it's very chill. It's very much all about exploration. I like doing art as well, so it's kind of fun to see what you can do in a game. Like it makes me remember that I need to play Passepartout 2, which is another art game or art focused game. But yeah, it's a good one, and I recommend checking it out if it looks like your kind of thing, because it's very well put together, and I'm very much looking forward to finishing that one off. But yeah, it might take a while because there's a lot of exploration and stuff to do. So
Yeah.
but yeah, that's all I've been playing. Nothing else really new, nothing else mind blowing or earth shattering. But I believe that's enough. Why don't we take a bit of a left turn into our topic of the week, which is video game preservation. And I feel like, well, I've had arguments with people about this before. Let's
Oh
just put it
no.
that way.
Oh no.
So I reckon why don't you start us off, Paula? And
Uh, should I
because we're going
worry?
to talk about basically why, how, all that kind of thing. And I don't really know much about it, to be honest. As far as I don't go in for like personally, I don't emulate anything other than obvious stuff like on my PS5. Obviously, there's an emulator on there to play older PlayStation games and that kind of thing. That's not really something I'm going out of my way to do. That's just a natural function of the PS5, just like new Xbox can play old Xbox games and all that kind of stuff. But on my computer, I've never run an emulator before. I don't care. Uh, I don't download ROMs or anything like that. You know, most of the time for my money, I'm happy just sticking to whatever I can. I've got a big enough library of stuff to play anyway. I don't really look back to old games because I probably played them when they were new anyway. So, my experience will be different from probably others, but I have opinions about game preservation in certain ways, but I don't really do a lot of it myself. So, what is the deal? What are we talking about here, Paula?
Well, it's mostly just trying to preserve games that is either you or future generations are able to play it. There are many ways this is done. To my understanding, well, the one that I usually do is just get the physical game whenever I can. So I am able to access the game even if I forget to download it, like just before the store went down or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, and in a way that also like not only gives me the security that I will be able to play that again, because I am the kind of person who does a lot of free play
Yeah.
of replaying games, but also like if I want to lend a game, like for example to my boyfriend, I just can't do it.
Hmm.
um on the other hand, we have like the digital preservation sort of thing. uh so usually, like, since physical media has a tendency to breaking down, especially like the older cartridges that require a battery to save games and stuff like that. People decided, hey, why don't we just like take the file on the cartridge and store it like in a computer? Because that way, like the cartridge and the hardware are like can break down, but the like the media, the actual game is able. You can still play it.
Hmm.
Um, Finally, like we have like the more stranger kind of things like rank hacks. I am not able like to think like of a particular one right now, but it's really like, hey, this game is not playable at the time, or like, oh, it could be like rank hacks or like private servers, I guess,
Hmm.
where you're able like to play a particular version of a game, like Warcraft Classic before Warcraft Classic was a thing, where people would just have vanilla WoW running on like private servers, and you were just able to play it. So yeah, like the main kind of like uh, I guess like video game preservation kind of deal that I do is like just get the physical media and have it there. OMHL, stuff like that, because it's like also like the most legit in a way.
Yeah.
Like unless you have like the you buy a game like on GOG and you are able to save like on a USB or something, or on a computer, like this is like the most legit way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
ROMs, I do like playing ROMs from time to time, either because it is more convenient than the actual hardware, uh, or because emulation is like on some kind of service like Nintendo Switch Online.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and very rarely it's like I don't have the game, but I want to play it anyway. I'm just gonna pirate it and do the thing. Mainly because, as you say, we have big enough backlogs as it is, so it's kind of difficult to just add to the pile.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and the private server thing, I don't do that because I don't like playing like things on like on multiplayer usually. So
Mm.
it's like put that away from me. Um, though I do play like the occasional round hack or like homebrew or whatever, where the game gets translated for people that don't speak the original language to just
Mm-hmm. Yep.
play.
Well, and I think that's kind of where this does cross over with what we were talking about last week when we were talking about piracy and that sort of thing, because it seems like a lot of the time when people talk about game preservation, not in general, but like in practice, sometimes it takes a bit of piracy or something to be able to maintain a playable version of something, like ROM hacks of old Atari games and stuff, like which no one has the consoles anymore, and if they do, they might not even work because they're just old and shitty. And so those games, kind of one of the only ways you probably can play them is through emulation and straight up hacks. So there's that, and that's where on principle wise, I've got nothing against obviously video game preservation. It's not something I'm personally interested in, like as in most of the time I'm like, oh well, if it's old and I can't play it anymore, I don't really care. I'll play something else. There's another option for me, and I don't think it's a tragic thing for creations to disappear over time either, or for different formats to kind of go out of style and be inaccessible, because I think that happens with all sorts of media. Probably books are one of the few things that just stood the test of time, really. But different music formats or video formats or that kind of thing as well have come and gone, and some things have gotten lost to time because of it. But at the same time, a lot of things do get copied to newer stuff, so it is more accessible. I think video games are quite unique in that sense, where hardware has changed so much over time that it does kind of become difficult to play a game that was designed for even DOS on PCs, because
Yep.
nowadays DOS doesn't exist, and you've got to essentially emulate it with something like DOSBox, or I guess that's the closest I've come to emulation, because I have run games that use DOSBox, so technically that's an emulator. So yeah, I guess that's as close as I've gotten before. But the thing is that, so if you want to play some old games and stuff, then often it's entire kind of systems that will block out their entire catalog because that system is no longer accessible, or that version of Windows no longer exists, or whatever. And it's a bit more restrictive than some other forms of media. And so I'm all for it. I think, if people want to hang on to it, especially like you say, Paula, if you've bought a physical copy of that game, that's a good way for you to always be able to have access to it. And I that's the reason I don't think it's a good idea that when you buy a physical game these days, like a PC game, you just get a Steam code and that's it.
Yeah.
And like an initial installation on the disc, but you also have to just go and download the rest. And I kind of think that's a bit shitty, because you have bought the game in a physical form, so you should have the whole thing, off
In the disc,
kind of
yeah.
offline, for want of a better term. Like, even though I don't really buy physical games anymore either, so I'm a digital dude all the way. But I think for those people who do buy physical stuff, yeah, you should be able to access it purely based on the physical media that you bought without any kind of downloads or anything else. Like, yeah, maybe you missed out on some patches and stuff, that's fine, but the game that you bought should be on the disc.
Definitely. Though there are reasons like some companies like would rather not have people extending the lives of some video games, either because like it is like a yearly release,
Yeah,
like I don't know, FC, Football Club now, FIFA, whatever. So they want people to jump into the next new thing. So of course they will revoke access to the prior version. I think it was the crew that has something like that happen.
right.
The crew one like got taken down, like the servers, and the crew two is like the crew you can play right now.
Yeah,
Or even like the original Warcraft 3, The Reign of Chaos, and Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne. If you don't have that original disc saved somewhere, and you want to play like the arena version of the game, you have to like pirate it.
yeah.
Which, funnily enough, I do have the game on disc, so I'm safe. Because I bought a physical like very many years ago, like in a pack or something. But still, when there are instances where like the older version of a game, it's better in a way. Again, going to the example of Warcraft 3,
Yeah.
where they well, if you're not gonna play the story mode, you're not gonna care that the cutscenes aren't as epic as they used to be. Um, but for example, if you play online in the original Warcraft 3, if someone lost connection or something along those lines, or like had like a hiccup on their connection, the game would pause for everyone, and then it would resume once everyone recovered their connection.
Oh, cool.
But with Reforge, it just so happens that if one player loses connection, the game is over.
Yeah.
And that is especially aggravating when they actually held a tournament. And at some point, one of the players that was winning, the opponent or someone like lost connection, and they had to replay the match. And the player who was winning ended up losing.
Yeah.
And they were like, and the sad part it was noticeable that the other player was winning, and there wasn't like a lot of time left before like the win was
Yeah, that's rough.
pretty much that. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's hard when devs make or production companies or whoever make new versions or new ports of old games that are shitter than the originals. Like the new the
Yeah.
GTA Definitive Edition games for Vice City and San Andreas, which by all means are much worse than the originals.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a bit rough.
It's rough. But sometimes like I guess like some devs would rather like forget about a particular game.
Mm.
Trying to think. Well, let's say whoever was involved into developing ET
All right.
would rather not have that game like running around, but you can still play via emulation, and everyone know the game is shit. So I feel like some people would rather not have their name recognized by some shit fest that happened a while ago, especially like
Yeah.
when it's not their fault. Like sometimes they either think the game is like the best idea ever, and it is not,
Yeah.
and the developers suffer for that. Sometimes it's like they give you like a very limited time to develop a game,
Yeah.
and there's no way in hell you're gonna make a good game in 6 months or something.
Yeah.
I mean, on a particular scope they are asking to do.
Yeah. 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 And that's where
But no, yeah.
I think, especially with remasters and stuff of old games where they kind of fuck it up, it always seems like it's a, speaking very generally, of course, but it feels like it's more of like a publisher-led thing where they've decided, hang on, like GTA San Andreas has been out for 20 years now. We could make some money if we ported it and made a new version and sold that. rather than just people
Yeah.
playing the old game, which you can still get on Steam, or you could at least get on Steam. I don't know if you can still get it, but they could still sell it. It's just not for very much money. Yeah, it just seems unnecessary at that point. It's like no one was asking for this, or not in the way you did it. Like it's kind of like that difference between are you going to do a full on remake and change the engine, do it in a newer way, and make it better, or are you just going to put some high res textures on and fuck up the controls and release that kind of thing. Like, so it makes a difference, I think.
Yeah.
And that's where I can appreciate people. It's kind of like people collecting vinyl records to me, because
Definitely.
I've got lots of vinyl records because I just do. I picked them up over time, and I've inherited my folks' old music collection and all that kind of thing. But I also have turntables where I can listen to them and play them, and I've got multiple turntables just because I'm into that sort of thing. But I don't collect vinyl records. Like, I'm actually pretty much not against it, but it's just not for me, because vinyl records are a shit format for music. like they might be enjoyable or anything, but they are technically more limited than any other format that we have, other than cassette tapes, which are even shitter. But they've got a lower dynamic range. It sounds warm because it's all muddy and all the frequencies are kind of smashed together. And I prefer personally a bit more kind of a higher dynamic range and clarity on certain frequencies and all that kind of stuff when I'm listening to music. So it's the kind of thing where I don't mind people collecting records. I get it. I get the appeal. It's fun. It's nice. They're big and beautiful, it's ways to deliver music and all that kind of thing. But the times when I get frustrated is when people start saying, well, this is, how you should do it, and every other way of it's better than any new version and all this kind of thing. And it's like, not really. But to bring it back to games, it's like, yeah, okay. Like I've still got my old Super Nintendo, I think, somewhere, but I really should probably sell it because I'm never going to freaking use it again. And I've got an old laptop somewhere as well, which is just useless, but I could probably play some games that I can't play on my modern computer on that one and things like that. And if I was really obsessed with game preservation, then I probably would keep some old hardware to play some old games and all that kind of thing. And that makes sense to me. Like, okay, I can understand the appeal, even if it's not something that appeals to me. The thing where I tend to run into conflict with people is
where piracy comes into play.
Well, not so much piracy, because that's not the reason in itself. It's, I think, and I know this is going to trigger some people, but it's that sense of entitlement that sometimes comes along with piracy in general, but then also people call it game preservation, where sometimes it's not up to us if something exists or not. And it's not up to us if we get to play something or not. Like, it's not a right to have access to things, and it's not like some kind of entitlement that we have to have access to things. It's nice, don't get me wrong, I get the appeal, but it's also not something that necessarily we should have control over. And because I also come from the angle of if something isn't successful, or if something dies, or if something is successful but just the creators for whatever reason decide, nah, that's it, we've had enough, we're shutting it down, catch you later, no more, I think they should have the right to do that and to determine that, no, we don't want anyone playing this anymore, it's our game and fuck you, kind of thing. Like like, maybe if you've bought it, if you've got a copy, cool, go ahead and play it and do whatever. But if not, sorry, you missed out and you need to find something else to do. And I feel like a lot of the time when people have told me that, I'm doing this for game preservation because it's important that we have copies of this and rah, 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 it's less about actually having some kind of historical record and more about, well, I feel like I should have access to this, and so I'm gonna, I'm going to pirate it. I'm going to emulate it. I'm going to do all this stuff to make sure that I can play it when I want to. And it's like, well, maybe it's not up to you. Like,
Yeah, that's another thing. It's by the way, that when you say like if the developer wants to like pull the plug and just like not have the game available for purchase anymore, I think that's respectable. The one thing that kind of irks me is when they revoke access to a license of the game, which, well, fair enough, because there's a thing where digital distributed games, if you read the really fine print, a lot of them have the thing where it says that the developer or like the publisher, whoever, can revoke your license under
yeah.
certain circumstances, and that's why they use with the crew, for example. And that's where I say like, um, that's where I worry about like having like this digital future looming over us in a way, because then you won't have the option to play something even if you bought it before, if the developer decides not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I get it. Like, there are times where, for whatever reason, a game gets pulled from a store, either like by license because the developer said this is part of my dark past, fuck it, or because there's another version, and I kind of like, okay, I respect that. Like, I can respect that. Like, I guess I can like respect the will of the artist in that regard. Though it's still a shame sometimes when well, it's kind of like interesting because like in a way the games that we all call like a classic and stuff like that, or that were very popular like back then, we can still find a way to play them legally now, because since they're popular, they get released and re-released and released like
Yeah.
100 times. There are those who want like the proper experience, like on their NES, with their NES controller, on their a huge ass TV with the tubes and stuff like that. And well, if you manage to get your experience, good for you. But uh, at the release, like for the purpose that I like having the games available, like besides just being able to play them when I want, I kind of like seeing how the games evolve as the series went on. So right now, like even if I have to play a remake, because of obviously quality of life improvements make everything better in a way. But for example, the Final Fantasy games that I should be playing 3. I haven't started 3, but it's interesting seeing like how the games change as the series goes on, and as new things happen in the gaming industry, uh, or as developers get weird ideas, because holy crap, Final Fantasy 2, as much as some people love it, and I know it has a cult following, sorry, I can't. um, but yeah, and there are like series of games where I feel like it isn't as necessary, like, or like there isn't like that drive, maybe because the game is like more as more like a product, more rather than just something the developer wanted to do to express themselves, like for example, like the FIFA games. They're like games that are produced for you to buy the one that is hot and new and then discard the last one.
Well, they're full of like external licensing deals as well. Those sorts of sports games where
Oh yeah, definitely. Like,
different brands and products and everything that are in there that they've paid for licensing deals and everything. So I can understand them going defunct really quickly, perhaps more than any other game, really. But
yeah, 100% true. And in that regard, like I understand games like not preserving them because it is more difficult because licenses, and like sometimes like uh well, FIFA players are gonna fucking kill me, but sometimes like the jump from one to the next isn't as noticeable
Yeah.
as like to say like we have to preserve every single one.
Mm, mm.
Like maybe if you want to see how clunky FIFA games used to be, you can play like the older games. But like, is it different the one from this year and the one from last year?
Yeah, it's like me playing through the WRC games. Like between WR6 and WRC7, which I'm playing now, there's not huge amounts of difference. So as far as the evolution of rally games go, those two titles are not, I think, as important as as some others, because they didn't, they haven't made huge advancements. It's just kind of like the next one, and there's a few differences, of course, but ultimately it's the same thing.
It's interesting to see those differences in the sense
Hmm.
of since there are people who play these games like every year, and the improvements are like so marginal or like incremental. Like they don't notice it like in a year by year basis, but it would be funny to see someone play like the FIFA game from like 4 to 5 years ago and the one from now.
Mm.
I guess like you would see more of a difference. Other companies like, is it Ubisoft that makes Just Dance? I think it is.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Yeah, they've gone a different approach, and I think I like it because like obviously you can't legally buy like the older Just Dance games,
Right.
and license hell is a thing. And holy crap, you have licenses there.
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing is that they've reached a point where the real reason to buy the next Just Dance game is like the music.
Yeah.
So what did they do? They made a service where you pay, if you pay like yearly, it's like $2 to $3 a month, I think.
Right.
And you get access to the legacy, all the legacy stuff from Just Dance. Like,
Well, that's kind of cool.
yeah, a friend of mine has that, and she has like the free trial month, and she says like, hey, this is like so fucking cool. Like each time I'm on vacation, I'm gonna pay for this because I don't need to buy another Just Dance unless I really, really want to play like the new stuff.
Mm.
But like from, I think she has the ones from last year. So anything like that was released like from that backwards, I guess,
Yeah.
is available. And even like the older, I guess the older tracks from the older titles, they've been they are being slowly added to the service. Like they add music from the older games, like I don't know if each month, each week, but they add a bunch.
Yeah. Cool.
And since yeah, and I guess that's another way of doing a little bit of preservation, like as the company itself.
Well, it sounds like that's a kind of good example of when kind of games as a service is perhaps a good thing.
Yeah,
Because yeah, I mean, obviously, there's been the trend of every publisher trying to make every game a service when perhaps it doesn't need to be, or it doesn't serve the game at all. But I can see
the
something like that, or like,
service doesn't serve.
yeah, basically, but I can see something like Just Dance, or even like a Guitar Hero or something. If it was kind of a live service kind of model, that could actually be quite cool because you could have access to a huge library of songs and different things to do and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that
Yeah,
kind of thing is actually
and
pretty
that's the
good.
thing.
So
Yeah, like when you see it in a way, like usually games as a service are seen as a bad thing for preservation,
mm,
or like subscriptions in general are seen as a bad thing for preservation. But there are cases where it allows things to be preserved
yeah,
that the company usually wouldn't think about, or even like the Nintendo Switch Online subscription
mm,
that has right now, it has NES games SNES games, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo 64, and I think it has some Sega shit over there too. But anyway, I don't remember like which Sega, but they had like a Sega Virtual Console too.
Well, they needed some
And the
good
thing
games.
is, oh my god! But the thing is that um, up until the Wii U, I think they and 3DS they released the games as the Virtual Console, and you had to pay like $3 or like 10, up to $7, I think, for some games.
Mm,
Then there were like you were just paying for ROMs,
yeah.
and it is very funny because at the time there was a discussion online where people wanted a service where they could just pay the one time and they can play like all the legacy titles.
Yeah.
When they came out with that, people were like, "Bring back the Virtual Console." But anyway,
Well, I think there's obviously,
um,
certain models are going to suit different people, but it's the same. That's why I think I kind of like those things like with Game Pass or PlayStation Plus or something like that, where they give you quote legit kind of versions of games, like old games that you can play on your modern
yeah,
system and stuff. And for me, it's more the convenience of it than the actual, legitimacy or anything like that. Like if I'm paying a subscription, I'll be like, yeah, cool. I've got access to this old game. I'll play that as well, or not, or whatever, depending on what I feel like doing. But obviously, when they try and force service kind of models into games which just don't need them, it gets a bit mucky and weird.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's interesting because, well, and I think obviously the games that suffer a lot over time are the ones that rely on perhaps servers or multiplayer stuff or things like that, like MMOs and stuff like World of Warcraft and things. There's a reason they brought out World of Warcraft Legacy or whatever it was called, where you could basically just play
Yeah,
vanilla, but on an official kind of server, and it would be supported and all that kind of thing. Because obviously people wanted to do that, but because the game has evolved so much over the years, you up until that was released, you basically couldn't do it unless you went on a,
on a private
on
server.
like a private server with an old version of the game and all that kind of thing. So it's kind of cool when companies do support that. And similarly, like even if they did a bad job, like with like the new Warcraft edition and all that kind of thing, yeah, they fucked it up. But I kind of like
Yeah,
I
Reforge.
like the idea of doing it anyway, like making a new version that should, in theory, be up to par with modern stuff, but it's revisiting an old game. It sucks that often they do fuck it up because you can see that it's hard not to see it as a cynical kind of cash grab as opposed to a, truly kind of inspired idea of, oh wow, yeah, let's modernize this game that people want to play, because wouldn't that be fun?
Definitely. Especially because they first shut down a project or like a private server of Warcraft Classic.
Yeah.
And then they were like, hey, we are not like we're doing this because we have to protect the image of our company and blah 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 blah. And said like they weren't gonna do it because it was a technical challenge. 3 Doritos after we have the official server.
Yeah. Exactly. And but to be fair, that's where I guess I kind of fall back on, no one's going to play all the games, and
Yeah, way hell.
but maybe that's not a bad thing either. Like even really popular stuff like vanilla World of Warcraft or something, maybe it's okay that it had its time and it's past, and that's that. You know, I personally don't mind
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I actually think that's kind of nice in a way. Like the whole idea of, the whole FOMO thing of these days where I missed out on the hot peak of whatever. It's like, yeah, and there'll be something else to do instead. So we don't all get to take part in, you know, whatever the hot shit is of the moment kind of thing. And that's okay. That's life. And
Yeah, that's okay. The I guess like the one place where I can like really see it, it's whenever there's like a series of games that it has been out for a while, and it has all the games are connected story wise.
Mm.
Kingdom Hearts. So at the very least, you had to give people a way, like to at the very least know what happened in that one spin-off game that nobody played. Which is more or less what they do, to my understanding, in the Kingdom Hearts like compilation games, where they do not include like all the games. Like there's a couple of games on the DS that people tend to talk less about.
Yeah.
Some even pretend it doesn't exist, like because of the gameplay. But I don't remember on which one. If it's like on the 1.5 or 2.5 Kingdom Hearts collection, whatever. But they do have like a little cinematic telling you like the story of that game.
Yeah.
Because since the story is connected, and even the spin-off have something to say about the main story.
Yeah.
You kind of need that.
Well, and that's,
At the very least, like that summary the game gives you. Like, okay, you don't give me the full game, but what the fuck happened?
well, and I would agree
Fill
that
me in.
that's in the developer's best interests. Because especially I haven't played Kingdom Hearts, but my understanding is that yes, it's a very convoluted story that does go through
Yeah.
all those different versions of different games, and there's like the 0.5 version and this. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. But yeah, for someone like me who does, especially if it's story heavy, I like to start from the start.
Yeah.
I would personally prefer to be able to play them, in whatever order I'm meant to be playing them or whatever.
Definitely.
So, in that case, I appreciate that sort of thing. However, at the same time, I still fall back on the idea that maybe, like, that's a nice idea, but maybe they're just shit in that sense. Like, and
True.
and people just got to deal with it. Like, maybe the developers didn't have the opportunity, or they didn't want to, or they weren't willing to, or whatever. Could be any number of
Yeah.
reasons. Either they didn't care, or they didn't have the money or the opportunity, or whatever. But sometimes things are just the way they are, and that's how you got to deal with it. And
Yeah.
and that's why with game preservation, like, I understand people doing it from like a historical kind of perspective of, hey, let's have a game museum where we can look at the very first game and be able to play it on that original hardware or whatever. And isn't that fascinating, and seeing where it goes then to the next kind of 10 years and then the next 10 years or whatever. And
Oh yeah, that would be cool as fuck.
yeah,
Yeah.
like actually being able to experience the evolution of games from a kind of, I think of it in a museum kind of setting, or that kind of perspective where it's for like historical relevance and interest. That's cool. I'm totally for that. That's rad. Like, yeah, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. What I think I have difficulty with, though, is that thing of sometimes you just got to let go. And it's not up to us as consumers, if we create something, then we can control, yes, we can make it last forever, or, some devs I'm sure do put a lot of stuff into their game to allow it to be even modded or copied, or it's DRM free or whatever, so that over time it will always be accessible and will always be, everyone will be able to play it. But then others, of course, are not interested in doing that because that's extra work that perhaps they're unable to do or not willing to do. And in my mind, I'm like, well, that's up to them. That's their right to do that or not, kind of thing, because it's their creation. And yeah, it gets a bit murky sometimes when there's that expectation of, I think because people have said to me the argument of, well, like, of course I ripped it off or pirated it or whatever, because how else am I meant to play it? And my thought with that,
Maybe you're the Maybe you're not meant to play
Well,
it.
precisely. And I get it. I get being really into something and wanting to get a copy of it or whatever. Like, I'm a big collector of music. Like, I buy a lot of CDs, and I'm always there's a bunch of CDs and things that I would love to have on my collection, but I can't find anywhere that I can buy them these days because they're just out of print and no one sells them anymore.
Or if someone sells them, they ask for an arm and a leg
Well,
and your kidney and your firstborn child.
precisely. It's like, yeah, I'd have to be paying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get that one CD from 1993 that some obscure band who I really like, but no one else did. So none of their recordings exist anymore. And so I feel that pain of missing out on things that you really are into and that you really enjoy and really would love to spend some money on or get a hard copy of or own and control a version of. But a lot of the time it's just, well, too bad. Like that's life. and I know that might sound a bit defeatist or cynical or something, but I think because there's such an abundance of alternatives in the world that not only are you not entitled to someone else's work, but I think it's a good lesson to learn that maybe there's just other options as well that you can just kind of go, oh, well, like, yeah, I wasn't able to buy that CD, but I bought this other one instead. So, or like, okay, I can't play that game anymore. And that's sad because maybe it's a classic or whatever and, it's on weird hardware or anything like that. But, oh well, say la vie, there's lots of other games to play. There's lots of other, even games from the same era to play that you can get access to. Like, it's very rare that there's an entire kind of generation that you can't get access to or, that kind of thing. Like, if you were going to build that museum kind of idea, you'd probably be able to find things to put in the museum from every single generation of every single console or whatever, or even PCs and that sort of thing. Like, you'd be able to find some old PCs where you could hook them up and play some old games and that kind of thing. You wouldn't necessarily have access to everything, but you'd be able to have access to a lot of things, I think.
Definitely. Though the only thing that I kind of regret is like, holy crap, some people do not take care of this stuff. Like, I bought like used games here in Chile. I've seen used games like when I went to the USA, and people, I don't know what the fuck do they do with their games, but they're in very poor condition.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the times where I have imported like games from, specifically Japan, uh, like if you want to buy something like from a store that sells used games in particular, they're usually complete in box.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like almost new condition. Like holy crap! And I'm like, you people in the rest of the world, why can't you be like that?
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if it's got something to do with perhaps it's more common to kind of trade in old games or that kind of thing in different parts of the world. So maybe you keep them in better nick because you're going to resell them. Or whereas, like, I think at least here, especially in Australia, there's a little bit of that, but it's not really worth it. Like, if you're going to trade in some games, you need to like trade in like 10 games to even be able to think of affording one, in replacement of that. So it's not really worth it. No, you're right. Sure.
Yeah. So for example, here there's a huge like need for a second-hand marketplace.
Yeah.
So usually there's a lot of people who play the game and then sell it, and they buy the game knowing that they will sell it, and somehow they still manage to fuck it up.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like, yeah, like you put the game knowing fully well that you're gonna sell it in the future to buy another game.
Yeah.
Why don't you fucking take care of it? Please.
Yeah, I've no argument here. That's, yeah. If I was the kind of person who's buying brand new games to then sell them quickly, like play it, sell it, I'd probably want to take as good care of it as I could.
Definitely.
just so that I know I can get as much for it as possible.
Right? I don't know. People are weird.
But you know,
But so yeah, like yeah, I understand Videogame Preservation, like to know from an historical standpoint. But yeah, I can agree that sometimes people are a bit too entitled.
yeah, and I think it's the same with the piracy stuff. It's the same with pretty much access to anything, or even people saying, "Oh, this game's only 2 hours long. I'm not going to pay $20 for it," kind of thing.
Oh shit,
It's a
yeah.
different topic entirely, but yeah, sure. If you can't afford it, then of course don't pay it. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, okay, if the dev wants to charge that much, that's their choice. Maybe it's a bad choice. Maybe it's a bad decision that they made. But I don't know. I don't things like that. I don't get annoyed at people for. I just kind of go, well, I'm not going to do that. That's kind of how I approach those things.
Yeah.
It's like in the real world, if I hate bad customer service when I go into a shop, like just rude people and stuff. So if I go into a shop and just buy some lunch or something and the people are rude to me, in my head I'm like, cool, I'm not coming back here again. And that's that. Like, it's their choice.
Like you don't have to make a fuss about it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you've chosen to be dicks, so I'm not going to support you. But yeah, and that's what obviously, yes, historical preservation and stuff is cool, and if that's what you're into, rad. I personally don't care. So but whatever. It's just not for me. I'm more than happy for other people to put in the effort and sort out that stuff for themselves. Because yeah, I just don't care. But at the same time, I also think, well, just like the piracy thing as well, like we're not entitled to much in this world, and that's okay. Like, at the end of the day, I know I'm a big fan of video games and everything, but it's just stuff. Like, it's just video games, really. As much as I love them,
Yeah.
and I spend a lot of time with them, and all that kind of thing, it's not the end of the world. There are worse things that could happen.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I actually think it's more tragic when books go out of print. Because then there's no way you're getting that back. Like,
yeah.
but anyway, that yeah, another topic for another day. But yeah,
Well then.
any final thoughts on
Any
that?
last
You go. Any final
like
thoughts, Paula?
mainly like yeah, if you want to play older games and you're not able to for or like if you can play it like like legally or like the developer like has the game out for you to play in some way shape or form, by all means go play it. But if they don't, like you're not entitled to it. Like I know it's kind of sad when you want to play like that one game that the only way you can get it is like paying a stupid amount of money uh for and walk like through a sus part of town to go and pick it up. But like if sometimes if the game hasn't like been re-released, maybe it's because a reason.
well, I think on that as well. Why, if you do disagree with it, or like if let's say there was no way to play Doom, and Doom is a fucking classic, and but there's no way to play it because it's not on Steam like it is now anyway, and there's only like old shareware floppy disks that exist that don't run on modern machines or anything like that. So your choice is to put in heaps and heaps of effort to basically pirate it to a modern system, or spend heaps of money on the old version and all that kind of thing. But the devs and the publishers and everyone else is not interested in giving you a version you can play nowadays. Let's say you really hate that and you think, these devs suck. Why can't I play this classic game? Rah, rah. my thoughts as well, the way I come at it is more, why support them by putting in heaps of effort to get their game running? Like, no matter how much of a
That is
classic
a
it
good
is,
point.
why not go support
Like, if the
someone
dev
else
sucks,
who is going to make it
yeah.
easy for you and let you play their game?
And maybe the devs say like, "Hey, they changed the competition because we're not doing this. Maybe we could do this."
Yeah, like, support good people. and the reason I bring up Doom is because I know for a fact that I like the way like the Doom developers deal with Doom, because yes, you can buy it, you can still purchase it on Steam and all that kind of thing, and there are versions available to play. But I've also seen, live streams with John Romero, who's one of the creators, and he's playing like modern mods for Doom that have been made. And I remember seeing him interviewed once, and they were like, "Oh, this is like a pretty extensive like overhaul kind of mod for Doom. Like, how, they've been working on it for years. It's like this big thing and all this kind of stuff. So how did it must have been really hard for them. How did they get get into the code so easily and all that kind of thing?" And John Romero, who's like one of the original creators, is like, "Oh, I sent them the source code. That's how they did it." Because he basically saw them doing it, went, "That's cool. Hey guys, here's the source code. This will make your life easier.
whatever.
Go have fun and fucking have a good time."
Oh, that's so fucking cool.
And and it's his game and he has the right to do that. But a lot of other developers might think, "Oh no, I'm not going to give you the source code because that's like, that's the keys to the kingdom. That'll give you all the access you need to do whatever you want with my old game." Whereas Romero's attitude is like, "Yeah, cool, fucking do whatever you want. It's an old game." Like, he's already made his money. He's
Whatever.
already succeeded from that. He doesn't need to prove anything. And he's just like, "I think it's rad people are still fucking with my game. So yeah, I just sent them the source code and said go for it."
That's beautiful.
So, support people like that. And maybe don't support the people who either don't want to or maybe they just can't, make it happen. And the other thing as well, just as a little cap on that, I know a lot of, from what I've seen, like the reason I always say, "Oh, maybe they just can't," rather than they don't want to, is because I'm sure a lot of smaller developers and stuff perhaps just don't have the resources to put into remastering or developing the game in such a way that it can be preserved with different systems or that kind of thing. Like, maybe it is limited or whatever when it gets released. But I believe those sorts of devs would also be very supportive towards, fans or gamers or whoever who make mods to make things work, or who do kind of get it running on emulation or anything like that. Like, I've seen plenty of devs who think that stuff's rad and really support it. So, spend your time on those people. Don't spend it on the big corporations who want to fuck with you, basically. That's my final thought.
Truer words were never said.
Well, there's, some people deserve your attention and your effort, others don't. So choose wisely. Yeah, with that,
Damn.
I think that brings us to a close for another day. Paula, what do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely. This has been quite the episode. And holy crap, my mouse just ran away.
Everything's falling apart. Abort.
Everything is falling apart.
Well, yeah, thanks for listening, everybody, as per usual. And, I'll say it again, like we say every week. If you've got your own comments to add to the discussion, or you've got your own ideas and opinions or disagreements or agreements or anything along those lines, feel free to get in touch, because, hey, we may or may not respond, but we probably would. I would.
Yeah, definitely. Is that like our inbox is
Yeah, I mean,
filled to the brim or anything?
I mean, these thousands and thousands of fan mails that we get every single episode, Paula, I don't know how we're going to cope for the incoming influx after today's brilliant episode.
Yeah, like holy crap. Definitely, like the mails we get the most is like scam attempts and other things.
Shh, you're not meant to tell people that. The only emails we get
Beautiful.
are scam emails. Quick, let's wrap it up.
Oh shit. Just wrap it up, yeah.
So yeah, Thanks for
Well
listening,
then.
everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Adios, muchachos.
But then the bad tide came.